at ACM multiple times and lots of other achievements, but we can spend time in listing his achievements. Let's go to the lecture. And thanks to the support of ACM Kai, HCI 2016 can invite really thank you for ACM Kai. And today, he will sharing with us his mind with title of Designing with Discomfort. Let's welcome Dr. Steve Benford.
혹시 질문하기 불편하신 분들이 있을까봐 저희가 질문 노트를 준비를 해놓습니다. 그래서 혹시 발표하시기 불편하시거나 하는데 질문 있으시면 표지를 써서 앞으로 전달해 주시면
Thank you very much for the invitation to speak to you today. It's a great honour. It's a pleasure to be here at the World Conference. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. And I'm Steve, and the topic of my talk is going to be deliberately designing discomfort into people's interactions with computers. And that seems like a bit of a strange topic, doesn't it? I mean, if you've done a course on HCI, like myself, then I think you will have learned that the objective is to make people's interactions with computers as comfortable as possible. I thought that the idea was that computers should be predictable and that users should be in control and understand what is happening, and that they shouldn't make mistakes, and that their work with the computer should be efficient. And above all, they should be satisfied. I thought that was the goals of HCI as I was taught them and even teach my students. So why then am I suggesting to you in my talk that we might like to break with that tradition and make people's interactions with computers uncomfortable? Well, the answer in part is because HCI has been turning in the last decade or so to the world of culture. And HCI is beginning to look at entertainment applications such as interactive games and artistic applications such as performances and installations. And those kind of applications have a different set of values and a different background. And in those sorts of experiences, discomfort of some kind is something that's routine. It's often designed into the content. And if it's in the content, then my position is that it should also be in our interactions with the content. So, I'd like to take you on a bit of a journey through discomfort, I hope you don't mind, and talk about four things. First of all, I'm going to try and convince you why this might be a good idea. What are some of the benefits to users of making them a bit uncomfortable? Secondly, we're going to learn from the masters. I'll present you some examples of interactive experiences that people have made that use discomfort in interesting ways. So we'll have some examples that we can look at to understand this thing. Then I'm going to do something a bit dangerous. I'm going to suggest to you 4 strategies that you might like to take out into the world and think about applying in your own experiences. 4 ways to apply discomfort. And that's a bit dangerous because I'm not sure I want to send lots of people out of the room to make users feel bad, and I don't want to be the person who is responsible for saying that. So we'll have a bit of a discussion about ethics at the end as well. What is it appropriate to do, and how can you use discomfort in an appropriate way? So that's the roadmap. Let's make a start. So why design uncomfortable interactions? Well, I'm going to offer you 3 reasons. The first is because they can be entertaining. So there's an argument in some of the sociological literature that says, because for many of us in our modern lives we are far removed from violence and fear and physical confrontation, but that our bodies still have those systems, the adrenaline, the fight and flight response, that there is a gap. And that's why we turn to roller coasters and violent games and horror films to fill that gap. And if you're one of those people, like me, who does that kind of thing occasionally, then you'll recognise there are several important concepts in entertainment that rely on discomfort. One of them is thrill. It's a bit hard to define what thrill is, but on a roller coaster, the best attempt I could give you is it's an experience of fearful anticipation, followed by extreme physical sensation, followed by euphoria. That's thrill on a roller coaster. Another key emotion in entertainment is suspense. Suspense is not knowing what's going to happen. No, that's not true. Suspense is knowing what's going to happen when the protagonists don't know what's going to happen. And that's an uncomfortable feeling because you can't warn them or advise them. So discomfort is part of thrill and suspense, and therefore part of entertainment. But I can get a bit more highbrow and lofty than that, a bit more worthy. This is HCI after all, and we like to have a kind of more worthy perspective. Discomfort is also part and parcel of part of enlightenment. So one of the roles of artists in society is to confront us with difficult things and difficult materials and bring those into the public realm so we can experience them. And discomfort can be used to frame the interaction with difficult materials so that it's not trivial. This picture here is of the Jewish Museum in Berlin, which is a museum that confronts some very difficult themes and material concerning the Jewish experience in the 20th century, including the Holocaust. And the architect designed the building, Daniel Libeskind, designed the building deliberately to be as uncomfortable as he could make it. It looks uncomfortable, it's full of irregular lines. The floors slope. When you stand in that building, you are never relaxed, you are never at your ease, because that is how he wants you to feel when you're engaging with the material that's inside. So if we're going to use interactivity to engage people with challenging materials, then we have to think about how we frame those engagements so that they're appropriate and they're not trivial. On another note, there's a long tradition in spirituality of discomfort as being part of the path to enlightenment. People starve themselves, they go on fasts. People hurt their own bodies, all as part of a personal journey in various religions towards some kind of enlightenment. So discomfort is part of another kind of journey. And the third reason I'll offer you concerns sociology and the rite of passage. So again, you can read studies about teenagers watching horror films together, and those studies will say they are. Confronting that fear together is something of a rite of passage. 3 or 4 years ago, I was studying families going to theme parks in the UK, and came across people who went back to a theme park every year, and each year as the children got a bit older, they would ride the next big ride in sequence, because that's what that family did. It was part of being in the family to go on the rides. It was their rite of passage. So, my motivating factors for making people feel sometimes a bit bad are ultimately you might entertain them, enlighten them, or bring them together. So let's take a look at some examples. For the past 20 years or so, my lab's been collaborating with a series of artists to make interactive works, and in the next couple of minutes I'll draw on just a couple of those to give you a sense of how they go about embedding discomfort into their experience designs. We'll start off with the world of performance and the use of technologies to make performance interactive, and talk about a group of artists called Blast Theory. This is the group of people we've worked with for the most time. We've worked with them since exactly 20 years ago. 1996 was when we started. We've made 10 or 11 works with them that have toured. And I'll pick on one to show you, called Ulrika and Eamon Compliant, from 2009, so a little while ago. And we'll just use this as an example to illustrate some of the ways in which the artists make people uncomfortable. Ulrika and Eamon Compliant deals with the subject of terrorism. It engages people who take part in the life stories of two terrorists, Eamon Collins, who was a member of the Irish Republican Army, and Ulrike Meinhof, who was a member of the infamous Baader-Meinhof gang, both active in the 1970s. The work invites you to follow their story, one of them, and ultimately to confront it. And it takes the form of an interactive city walk. You're sent out into a city. The video we'll see in a moment is in Venice, where the work premiered. And as you walk around the city and explore it, you receive a series of automated phone calls. The phone calls begin to relate the story to you. They ask you to choose the character that you're following, Eamon or Ulrike. But as the calls go on, they become more demanding. They begin to speak to you as if you were Ulrike or Eamon. And they ask you to become compliant with their instructions, sitting down on a bench, making a certain gesture, as if somebody was watching you. They also repeatedly ask you if you want to back out of the experience. And if you say you don't, then you're pushed to the next level. The experience ends with you being met and taken to an interview room, where you're interviewed about your own attitudes towards violence. And as you leave the interview room, you get a chance to look back at the next person who's coming along through a one-way mirror and to see how they respond to the same questions. So I don't know if that makes sense, but let's take a look at the artist's own documentation. So this is a short video clip from Last Theory that documents the work from when it was shown at the Venice Biennale.
Hello, it's me. You and I are going on a walk together.
Hello.
Outside, it's 1973.
I'd like to be Eamon.
Hello, Eamon. I'll stay on the line while you walk. Keep your eyes open. Act natural. There's always a first time for this kind of thing, and practice makes it easier. I'm going to count to 10. If you're still on the line when I get to 10, then I'll know where you stand. 1. The two killers ride into Warren Point on a motorbike. 2. They switch the engine off, allowing the bike to glide the last 20 metres so as not to raise the alarm. 3. Once inside, Iceman goes down the corridor into Toombs' office. 4. He takes up a firing position with arms outstretched. 5. His gun jams, giving Toombs enough time to reach for his own weapon. 6. Iceman leaps onto him and the two men struggle. 7. The second gunman comes running down the hall and shouts, "Stand back." 8. Iceman lets go and the second man fires several shots into Toombs. 9. Iceman clears his weapon. 10. He pumps several more rounds into Toombs as he lies dying. 'Don't be shy. It's a question we all have to answer from time to time. And today, it's your turn. What can you do for the people around you? Now, get moving. Stand up and walk away from the bench. Do not look back. As you stand at the water's edge, you need to make a very important choice. If you want to quit, hang up right now. Eamon, you've made your choice.
What would you fight for?
珍珠的心理太奇妙。
Could you imagine a situation where your community was being attacked? People coming into your community Yes.
That was a bit serious. As I was about to say. That was a bit serious, wasn't it? Sorry about that. So for some more examples, let's take ourselves to the world of entertainment, for something a bit more light, but perhaps no less uncomfortable. A second artist that we've been working with is a character called Brendan Walker. And Brendan's interesting. He trained as an aeronautical engineer. He then went to the Royal College of Art. And these days he works as a television presenter in the UK, an artist, and also a consultant to the theme park industry, which is sounds like an ideal job specification, really, doesn't it? What a fantastic job to have. And Brendan approached us because he wanted to look at how to use interactive technologies to extend the ride experience. This involved quite a long journey through several different designs and prototypes that we made. His first idea, and the reason he first came to us, was because he wanted to build a personal telemetry system. You know the telemetry systems they have in Formula 1 cars that kind of send their data back to base so you can look at it on television? Well, he wanted the same kind of thing for the human body, so that somebody would wear some equipment, undergo an extreme experience like a roller coaster ride, and that members of the audience, ideally their families and loved ones, could watch their response close up. So we designed this technology. It was a helmet with a camera looking at your face that you couldn't take off or look away from, a microphone to capture your screens and conversation, a heart rate monitor, galvanic skin response monitor to measure how much you're sweating, which may be a sign of anxiety or not, accelerometer to measure the movements of your body, and finally 2 small sensors to measure movements of key facial muscles associated with smiling and frowning. This data was streamed back to live audiences where it was displayed on a big screen so that whoever was watching would have a close-up view of somebody's ride. So the first time we tried this out was at the Science Museum in London, in the car park. We hired a ride and we got volunteers from the audience. We threw a party, they went on the ride, we showed their data, and we had various people there to explain the data, psychologists, sensor designers and so on. And here's a very rough video clip of how that first experience sort of turned out, or how it looked. Watch out, this one's a bit loud. The image you can make out in the top right of the picture is one of the examples of the visualizations that Brendan designed to be shown to the audience. So in this case, it's a close-up of the face with this data overlaid on it in a sort of medical machine style. He experimented with various others as well during the event.
Really happy that I got picked.
That's enough screaming. That was okay. Of course, we all know there is an element of discomfort sometimes involved in going on a big ride, like the booster in that case. But Sam, in that case, didn't seem to be having a particularly bad experience. But later on, we took the technology to a theme park in the UK and tried it out at various other rides. And some of the videos we captured made for quite difficult watching. So I've got a video here of a gentleman who described himself as a ride virgin. He said he'd never been on a large roller coaster at all. And for his first experience, he chose to ride Oblivion, which is the world's first vertical drop roller coaster. So it's a biggie. And I still find it a little bit difficult to watch this video, but I'll share it with you anyway.
I'm feeling really, really apprehensive. Like I wish I wasn't doing this. I really wish I wasn't doing this. And nervous. Oh my God. I'm so scared. This doesn't feel real. I'm afraid to look at the camera. I don't want to look down. It's going to be alright. Don't look down. Ah! Oh my God! That was amazing! I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad I did that. I really, that feels like, I don't know, that's, wow, I can't actually believe that's true, I've just done that. Oh my God. That was over too quickly. I think I've bitten my lip through though.
That's still difficult to watch. Okay. If I was in the audience right now, I'd be thinking, it's not very interactive though, is it? We're just taking videos from people and looking at their data. And I think you'd be right to think that. So the next stage was to think about, could we take this physiological material and make an interactive ride? We don't have the budget to make a roller coaster, so we made a bucking bronco ride. Anyone in the audience ever ridden a bucking bronco ride? Show me your hands if you have. Me, Patrick, and somebody else. Well, you've led far too sheltered lives. It's a fantastic experience. You can hire one, I'm sure, very cheaply. You can buy them. They come in all sorts of interesting shapes. We bought one for a couple of grand. Ours is a red egg shape, and we thought we'd make it into an interactive ride. So the aim of Bucking Bronco is it's a machine that you ride and it tries to throw you off. And at the end it does throw you off, that's the fun. But we thought we'd change the game a bit, and we also made the bucking bronco respond to your breathing. So although the ride got harder, if you breathed a lot, it got even harder. It was a very simple mapping. If you breathed in, it moved to the left, and if you breathed out, it moved to the right. But that was enough. That was enough, because the ride is pushing back at you, making you breathe more, and your breathing is pushing back at the ride, making it move more. And so you end up in some bizarre human-machine interactive loop situation as you're desperately struggling to stay on. So a little bit of video of the bucking bronco, although it only really shows what I just said, but we might as well see it. Here's the thing about the Bronco. When we studied it, we interviewed people, we observed them, we looked at their breathing data streams and tried to figure out what was going on. And people tried out various tactics with the Bronco, but the one that most people tried, and the one that led to a particular sweet moment of discomfort, was the obvious thing to do, and that is hold your breath. When the ride gets nasty, people's inherent reaction is to stop breathing, so it doesn't move as much. Now, I don't know how long you've tried to stop breathing for, but on the whole, it's quite a difficult thing to do for any sustained period of time. And after about 20 seconds, people realise they can't stop breathing forever. And they're starting to feel a bit bad because they're running out of air. And they've got this growing sense that sooner or later, they're going to have to breathe again. And when they do, things are going to get a lot worse for them than they are right now. And that moment of trying to fight your own body at the same time as trying to fight the machine is the pinnacle moment of the ride. Sitting there and figuring out the situation you're now in. So that was the Bronchomatic. Brendan took it just one stage further. He couldn't resist. He built a second breath-controlled ride, and this one was a swing. Similar idea. The more you breathed, the more it would swing. And if you could breathe in synchronisation with the swing, it would push it further and further. So this was a ride about keeping your nerve, keeping breathing steadily in order to push it further and kind of not chickening out. He also changed the interaction device. Whereas before he was using a chest strap to approximate the breathing, he now put the breathing sensors in a rubberised gas mask. So people were wearing this rather nasty rubber device on their face, sitting on a swing in an attempt to have a ride. This wasn't quite enough for Brendan. He wanted to think about the design of the entire ride experience, not just what happened to you on the swing. Because when you go on a roller coaster, it starts the minute you get in the queue with the build-up, and it finishes when you end up in the shop, sometimes afterwards. So Brendan's inspiration for the ride was a painting. It was this painting by Fragonard, Sally told me. This painting is it's a bit naughty, to be honest. It shows an Edwardian lady enjoying the physical sensation of swinging. In the background is her husband, who is controlling her by doing the swinging. And in the foreground is her lover, who is looking up her skirts every time she swings past. And that's Brendan's ride design, more or less. So he took this as his inspiration, and he said that Breathless would work. You would start off in a queue, and at some point you would be kitted up with the gas mask, which is a process that takes several minutes. And then you would sit in a chair with a spotlight on you, watching other people on the ride, and you'd be the voyeur. You'd be the one in the bushes. Then you got to have a go on the ride, and at first your breathing would control the swinging. But after a while, it wouldn't. It turned out that it was somebody else's breathing who was now controlling the swinging, and that was the controller, a third person. And then finally, after you'd been the rider, you got to be the controller. So you got to sit in another chair with a spotlight on you, and at some point control someone else's swinging. So Brendan set up a pretty complicated structure in which you got to experience this phenomena from various different perspectives. And here's just a couple of stills from Breathless, give you some vague sense of what it looked like. So time is pressing, and while I could go on talking about individual examples for several hours, I think I promised you a cookbook of nasty tactics or strategies or something like that, didn't I? So here we go. What lessons can we generalise from examples such as those and others about the use of discomfort in interaction design? Well, I'm going to suggest to you 4 broad strategies that look at different facets of discomfort. The first one is visceral, physical discomfort. Let's think about the physical aspects. Nearly all of these experiences have got some element of physicality to them. It appears to be important. And here I've got several tactics that I think creative